welcome back to episode 2 of my Python crash course. Today I'm going to be talking about variables, what they are, how we use them, and how they fit into our game, as well as programming in general. So in the last episode, if you guys were following along, we should have our main function, which is just the formalities that wrap around our code, and a single print line, where when we click run, whatever we type in these quotation marks inside the brackets appears over here. Which is fine on its own, but in order to, for example, show this window, we need the program to be able to keep track of data. So for example, this website is part of the data that Windows, or my browser Brave, keeps track of. And it does that by storing it in a variable. So what a variable is, it's a container. And the variable has two things. It has a name, and it has a value. So in order to create one, we have to give it a name. So I can say x equals, and then something. So you see it suggests x equals 5, so it stores it as a number, or we can store it as a word, like hello world. A word, a sentence, it doesn't really matter as long as it's surrounded by these quotation marks. Repl.it knows that x is stored as a hello world, and it's stored as a string. A string is just any group of characters. So what we can do, now that x has the string hello world in it, we can go down here and we can write x. And if we click run, the exact same thing happens. Nothing has changed, except we've created a variable called x, and we've named it hello world. Now, what else are we going to do? Well, we'd also like to be able to take in information from the console, because if every action is predetermined, so every action is only what's written in here, my cursor, for example, wouldn't be able to move from right to left when I move my mouse, or I wouldn't be able to type, because our program needs a way to take in information. I'm sure you guys are pointing out, but Exilius, you told us over here in your handy-dandy slideshow that the code can't be changed while Repl.it is doing it. And you're right, the code itself can't be changed, with one exception. And these are inputs. So while Repl.it is reading our code, if we ask it to wait for an input, it will. So like it's written here, inputs are the only way to interact with the butler, Repl.it, while he's following the recipe, which is the code. And the butler will, I say calls you because you can't actually go face-to-face and talk to Repl.it. The butler calls you and you can give him information, but only if the recipe tells the butler to ask for information. So what does that mean? So if I go back to my code, you notice nowhere here am I allowed to give information. I can't type anywhere. I run and then it stops, and that's it. So in order to ask us to wait and take in information, there's a command called input with an open close bracket. And you notice it turned yellow, so Repl.it recognizes, okay, this is something I can do. This is a statement. Statement is something that does something. And we could just run it like this. So x, our variable, is stored as whatever is inside of this input, or whatever it receives. So that input is like Repl.it calling us. And you notice it hasn't stopped. The stop button is here. It doesn't just start and then stop immediately after reading all this code. because this input here is saying, wait, I need to receive information. In this case, we can write whatever we want here, such as information. And when I click enter, you notice it prints out information. And the reason is, just like our last bit of code, it takes in an input, it's asking for us to give it something, in this case the word information, and then prints it back out for us. So that's pretty neat. But what can we do with this? Well, we can ask Repl.it to ask us our name. So inside of this input, inside the brackets with quotations, we can write, what is your name? And then we write code in here, and then we write our name in here, and then we want it to respond with hi, and then our name. So how do we add hi onto this? Well, with strings, which again are groups of characters, you can add them together. So I can make a new string and say hi plus x, and x is whatever our name is. So if I click run, what is your name? So my name is Exilius. Hit enter, hi Exilius. Because again, it takes Exilius in as the input, it saves it as x, and then it prints out hi and the space plus x, which is our name, or which is my name. Which is pretty great, but I would like to talk about one other type of variable, which is called an array. So I'll be right back, and we're back. And you notice I've added quite a lot of stuff, but I'll walk you guys through what this is. So you notice just like here, we're making variables. We give it a name, so this one's called vowels. And instead of making it equal to a string, so in this case, this for the last time we run it, the string was Exilius. This time we have square brackets and multiple strings with commas in between. And this is called an array. And an array is how you're able to store multiple variables, multiple strings, multiple ints which are numbers like 5 or 27. Multiple whatever, all in a group, and store them in one variable. So this vowel is an array, and it has 5 values, A, E, I, O, U for the vowels. Consonants is the exact same thing, and you notice that the elements, which are the individual variables inside the larger array variable, they aren't on the same line. And Python lets us do that freely. So I could just bring this back up here, and then I'd have to put this on this line and this on that line. But that's a little bit messy. So I prefer leaving it like this because we have a lot of data and I don't want the string to go all the way to the end. So we have 2 arrays, one with vowels and one with consonants. And the reason we have 2 arrays is I want to talk about getting an element from an array. So let's say I only want E or I only want I. I want to show how that is done, and we're going to add it to our name. So instead of writing hi like this, we're going to write hi using H from consonants and I from vowels. And yes, I know we could just write hi, but for our game later on, we are going to need to pick out specific elements. So right here, I'm going to first find my I. So I write the name of the array, vowels, and then open close square brackets, and then a number here. So what I'll do is I'll type 3, because it's the 3rd element. And if we run this, I'll show you why that doesn't actually work. So say, I don't know, my name is Jason. we have O JSON. And the reason it's O instead of I is because in arrays, the first element is named or has an index, which is this number that we're putting here, an index of 0, and this one is 1, and this one is 2. And the reason for that is just to optimize the data storage, but that's not really relevant. So what I am also going to do is grab h from consonants, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. And then we're going to hit run. What is my name? My name is Exilius. Hi, Exilius. And that's pretty cool. The one other thing I wanted to talk about is for strings. Let's say I wanted to have an enter key so that when we're writing our name, or when we're writing our name, I guess, it's not put after the question mark, it's put on the next line. But if I put an enter here, you notice it breaks. So there's certain keys, or I guess special characters, that you add to strings in order to properly display them. So the key for an enter is \n. So if I run this, you notice when we click here to type, it doesn't let me type here, it lets me type here. And that's just a quality of life change that I like making because it looks a little bit neater. But that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back with episode 3 in a few days, but I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.